If you've been thinking that a thatched cottage would be an ideal stay during your Ireland vacation, I have got one for you that is located in the heart of the country that makes a perfect base for a few days for day trips and explorations, and I can't wait to share it with you today. Thanks so much for joining me here again on the Traveling in Ireland podcast. If your ancestors emigrated from Ireland, you might be a little curious about what they left. And if you're planning your own trip, you may have even considered a stay in a traditional thatch cottage. Today, I am joined by Jim Murphy, who owns just such a cottage in Mitchelstown, County Cork. Not only is the cottage available for holiday rentals, but it is perfectly located to allow some great day trips and for a great rest either on your arrival into Ireland or your departure right before you leave. So, Jim, I want to thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your cottage.
Thanks, Jody. It's great to join you, and looking forward to sharing the story about it.
I was introduced to you by Kira, who owns Barnahone, and that was back in podcast episode 191. So it's been probably a year since I had Kira on the podcast, and she said, Jody, you have to talk to Jim because he has the most beautiful cottage with a terrific story. So I am excited to hear about, it's kind of an Irish American story, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm really excited to hear about the cottage and the story that goes with it.
Yeah, it definitely is an Irish American story, and Ciara's been great with our project in Mitchelstown, highlighting Mitchelstown. Good buzz around the town at the moment, a bit of vibrancy about the tourism sector. I suppose the area itself has been underutilised for many years, and I think the full potential now is coming out I call it like you have the tri-state areas in America. This is a tri-county area. We have Cork, you have Tipperary, and you have Limerick, all within a couple of miles of each other in the town itself, around the town. So it is a real, and each county has its own, which are Galties and Ballyhowra and Knockmildown Mountains. So it is a fantastic area, and Ciara has done great work with our Barnahound project. So everyone tries to bring a little bit to it, and we try to bring a bit to it with the Thatched Cottage. So the story, I suppose, of the cottage, it's very personal to us. It's 6th generation Murphys now, ourselves. My go back maybe 5 greats, grandfather, Michael Murphy, he would have finished building it probably in and around 1760. And the reason we say 1760 is because that's the first time we see it on a map. So the actual cottage footprint is there as it is today in 1760. So it does predate that, but who knows? I don't think it's gone back much further than that generation. So probably maybe 1730 or so could have been built. But 1760 is where we 100% have it, and we take it from there. So Murphys have generation after generation been there. There is a connection to America is incredible with it. I mean, there's every generation has immigrated. They didn't immigrate to the UK or Europe. They all went to America. Only 2 families stayed in Ireland. My grandfather's generation, only 2 of them stayed in Ireland. So all the rest in America.
How many children were there in the family in your grandfather's generation?
There was 8.
All in that one little cottage at one time?
Yeah, and only 2 of them stayed in Ireland. 2 of them died young, and the rest immigrated, and 2 stayed in Ireland. Then my father's generation, most of them stayed in Ireland, but my cousins are very few in Ireland. They're all in America, and they're great, and they've been fantastically supportive of the project over the last couple of years in the renovation, because the cottage was in bad shape, it really was. So we took on the restoration of that, which I'll get into in a minute. But the history of it with the connection with America is so important because they all left. And I suppose there's a thing called an American wake. Have you heard of an American wake?
I have, but go ahead and explain it for those who may not be aware of what it is.
Yeah, it's something that's not front and center in the general tourist canon when you come here, but it's very front and center in the cottage, because an American wake would be where your son or daughter would be immigrating to America. You would not see him again. You're talking in the 1718, early 1900s. You were saying goodbye to him. Neighbours would gather. They would have drink and music, and the priest might come and say a few prayers. And it was like a funeral, but a happy funeral. But your mum and dad still had to turn around and say goodbye to their probably usually the age was 18, 17, 18, maybe 20, 21. Really wasn't really older than 21. And they would go into town and into the train station and get the train to Cove or Queenstown and sail to America. But they were saying goodbye to him, and it was called an American Wake. The cottage, very, very real and front and centre, is that American Wake vibe, because we have the names, we have the photographs, and it held, unfortunately or fortunately, which way you look at it, a lot of them. And that feel is in there. There's a special feel in the building that you just know it's been through a bit. But it's still a very good and positive vibe in there, in the cottage itself, which is great. And everyone gets that. Every single person says, no, there's something extra special here. There's that feeling. But I suppose where people gathered and they loved their family, and the emotion was high, and I don't know, it soaks it up into the walls, and it's very evident today. The American Wake is very interesting, and it's something that I think kind of maybe hopefully will be explored a bit more in Irish history. There's not a lot about it. Because again, they were very personal and private. It wasn't the thing that people would share or document. But again, a great occasion though for all neighbours and family and so forth. But it's sad.
It would almost be like a reunion before they sent them off, right? Where everybody would gather. You had your chance to say your last goodbye. So it would be emotional in a sad way, because at that time you knew you were not likely to see them ever again. But then there was also the excitement and the joy for what was ahead of them.
Yeah, that was it. And look, thankfully, they do write letters. And I found a lot of letters in the cottage, believe it or not. I think the earliest one I have was from 1912, about 2 months before Titanic sank. I have a letter with the envelope and stamp, perfect, like it was posted yesterday. And writing back and just saying, we're getting on okay. How are you there? And the farm and the weather, and usual things. It was very mundane stuff, but important stuff that they were talking about. And I had the great privilege to show one of those letters from the late 20s to a relation of mine that came back a couple of years ago. She is in her 80s, and she read the letter written, holding it in her hand, from her great-grandfather talking about her mother. From her grandfather talking about her mother. And she just couldn't believe it. She started crying. She actually could not believe it. She's holding an envelope with a stamp and a letter written by a grandfather. The grandfather was talking about her mother. He left that cottage behind me in 1890. It was amazing to give Sarah, was her name, to give Sarah that chance to see that letter and hold it. And if I ever wondered when I was doing a renovation and the hard slog, was it worth it? That moment was. And to be fair, she's been very supportive, and the whole family's been supportive of the project as well. It took a lot, because I suppose in 2022 we started the renovation, so it got fully stripped back, original, back to the stone, back to the mud, mostly mud walls, lime render.
So when you started the project, I know you said it was very derelict. When you say very derelict, what are we talking about? That nearly rotted out. Like, what were you starting with as a kind of the raw beginning of this? Because renovation of a building like that in Ireland, there's a lot of rules you have to follow. There are a lot of special things you have to do. So where did you start?
To keep it authentic, I suppose I was dealing with a very wet building, damp everywhere. The lime render was very old, patched up from the 40s, the 50s, going back further, with cement. And cement is the kryptonite of thatched cottages. It's a disaster. You've got to kick it out. And there was a lot of cement put in patches here and there. So you strip it back. One guy gave me a bit of advice. He goes, you strip it back as far as you can go. Just keep going. When you think you can't go any further, keep going, and then build it back out. So I did, and I went and did a couple of courses on lime plastering and pointing and all this. A couple of local tradespeople helped me, and we did it bit by bit. I did a lot of it, most of it myself. A lot of it was just taking stuff out, so it wasn't actually very skilled, the plastering was, but the walls are not straight, so it was actually very easy to plaster, because you didn't have to have a right angle in the place. As for the thatch, it was different. We got a local thatcher, great guy, one of the best around, and he finished the thatch last October and did a fantastic job, and it really brought it back to life. And that just encased the whole building. And thatch is incredible. It's self-insulating. It's obviously completely natural. And there's one thing about thatch, and I say it to people, they look at me stupid when they come to the cottage. I say, I hope it rains, and I hope it rains really heavy. We don't want it to rain. We want it to be sunny. We want it nice. I said, no, you're going to be lucky. If it rains, you're going to be lucky. The reason why, you're inside in the cottage, you're looking out the lovely little windows and the door, you see the rain coming down so heavy. Your senses tell you, I should be hearing this rain. If you're in a house, like I am now, you have slates, you hear the rain in the roof, you hear the rain in the windows. With the thatch, you don't hear anything. So your eyes are looking at this heavy rain falling and there's something missing. You can't hear it. When you first experience it, it's amazing. It's like someone's put cotton wool in your ears. You can hear everything else, but you can't hear the rain. And when you're looking out at heavy, heavy rain, it makes it very comforting inside that you feel really safe in there, away from it. It's one plus about raining in Ireland, and there's a lot of rain in Ireland. But if you stay in a thatched cottage, the rain gives you that little extra gift, let's say. It's just nice not to hear the rain, but you can see it. When you're driving around and the rain is hitting on your car, you're like, oh God, I'm so sick of the rain. But when you're inside cozy by the fire in a thatched cottage looking out at the rain, it's nice.
So let's talk a little bit about the area because you're talking about how Mitchelstown is very central, really, in Ireland, and that there's kind of a revitalization going on. And I would love to hear more about this because I have a lot of people who contact me and they're like, we would really like to stay someplace central and day trip from there. And to be honest, there are very few places in Ireland that are ideal for day tripping to multiple destinations. But Mitchelstown actually has a few that you can go to easily in a day.
Yeah, it's incredibly central. I mean, the thing about when you come to Ireland and you base yourself in the West, that's it, you're in the West. Or you base yourself in Dublin East or Kerry, you're there because you're at the extreme, you're at the coast. So if you go central, now you don't want to be too central, no offence to up the country, because you're too far away from things. But Mitchelstown is, as I said, is situated in a tri-county area. So you have Limerick, Tipperary and Cork. So really, I'd always say Mitchelstown is 1 hour max from everywhere you need to be. So you can be in Waterford in an hour, you can be in Limerick City in an hour, you could be in Cork in 40 minutes. The airport is 50 minutes away. You can be in Tipperary, North Tipperary, in less than an hour again. Tipperary town is 20 minutes away. It's incredible. You're only an hour away. And I suppose distance for Americans coming here, they view it differently. I had one couple here not too long ago at 5 o'clock in the evening. They said, okay, now we're going to Galway. I said, what? Going to Galway? At 5? Jeez, we wouldn't dream of going to Galway at 5 o'clock in the evening. But yeah, they're like, it's only less than 2 hours on Google Maps and we're there. So perception is different. But Mitchelstown is so central. I mean, first of all, it has a motorway. So the Cork to Dublin motorway passes it. You have a good highway, motorway to service it. To the north of the town, you've got Cahir, Glen of Aherlow, the Galtee Mountains. To the east, you've the Knockmill Mountains, Lismore, Ballypreen, Ardmore. West, you've Limerick, Innis, County Clare. You could be in Lahinch in probably an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and 30, and back again. Cove, Cork City, Middleton, all to the south, including Kinsale. So very, very central and good roads servicing it. And also then you have Mallow and Killarney. I suppose if you're coming from Dublin down to Killarney, you'd have to go through Mitchelstown and into Mallow and then on to Killarney. So it is very, very much centre vein for people passing through. But unfortunately, over the years, that's kind of the people have been passing through, kind of getting somewhere else. And there was various reasons for that.
It's almost like the motorway just kind of rims it. You don't slow down.
No, and people want to get where they're going, but I suppose there was also a lack of accommodation. There's a couple of hotels in the town, but historically over the last number of years and decades even, there wasn't a lot of accommodation in the area. So people didn't have much of a choice but to continue and go straight through. But thankfully now with the modern tourism that's out there with the likes of your Airbnbs and all these sites, it offers a lot more for people to give them the opportunity to stay and base themselves. There's incredible local history and things to do in the town itself, but further afield, there's such a rich history. I mean, Ballypreen is out the road, a little village. It was actually designed by the same people who designed Mitchelstown. They did a couple of villages in the area, and one village was Ballypreen, and President Ronald Reagan visited in 1984. The anniversary is around now, and that was massive. Think about it, 1984, the president arriving outside of Mitchelstown, and it was a great occasion. So that history is there, and they took that pub in Ballypreen and they brought it out to California to the Reagan Library. So you could see the outside of the pub in Ballypreen, but you'd have to go to California to see the inside of it. And funnily enough, I had someone in the cottage last week. He managed to do that. He was in the Reagan Library only a couple of months ago and he saw the pub. So I sent him out to see the outside of it. So he was delighted. He never knew it was there. There's so much to do around it. I mean, it's endless, and it is Limerick, it's Tipperary, it's Cork. We have the luxury of this tri-county area, and it just offers so much more. You can try not that the culture is that different, but each area has its own thing going on. I mean, your Ballyhowrah area, yeah, we're in that, and you've showcased that before on the show. And your mountain bikes in Ballyhowrah, fishing, there's so much going on. But then there's other areas where you've Glenavarlow and you've Cahir Castle and you've Tipperary and Golden Vale, and then you've the Knockmill Down Mountains and Lismore Castle and Lismore and the V Ray and Ardmore, even Ardmore by the coast, beautiful. And then you can go the other way south, and you've Middleton Jameson Distillery, you have Cove, which is incredible, which Cove ties in a lot with the cottages in the American wake, because that's where they went. Everyone who immigrated to America, say, I suppose you could draw a line under Dublin down, would have sailed from Cork. They would have sailed from Dublin. They would have sailed from Sligo in the north, in the west. They would have sailed from Sligo, Galway. But Cove, Southern Ireland, Cove was your destination, Queenstown, and you got on board your boat and you said goodbye to Ireland. So I think it's an important place for people to visit, and it can be forgotten about sometimes because, again, there's more glamorous places people go to. They'd say, oh, we go to Kinsale or the Wild Atlantic Way. Cove has, it's got the link with Titanic as well, of course, So Cork City, Middleton, Cove, Ardmore, Youghal, and it's all in a circle. I take people when I have the chance, and if they want to have a look around, I would take them on a drive, and it's a beautiful drive for a day. You leave Mitchelstown, you go to the Glenavarlow, the Galtee Mountains, Cahir Castle, you bring them into Ballypreen, into the V Drive, Lismore Castle, onto Ardmore by the coast, and you're coming back around yourself into Middleton for the distillery, and back down a motorway, and you're back to Mitchelstown again, and you've done all that. It's a full day, but it's an easy day's work because you're not, the way it falls, you're not cutting back on yourself at any stage. You're continuing, you're making progress all the time. And I cousins of mine here last year, and I brought them on that trip, and they couldn't believe it because they were going to the Cliffs of Moher, and they were doing the Giant's Causeway and all these things that are 1-2 on the list of people to see. But they would have never in a million years have done this or seen these. And they saw some incredible things along the way, the Mitchelstown Caves, of course, outside the town. We went there. They liked their politics, so Ronald Reagan was an interesting one. And then Lismore Castle. So sometimes it's good just to go a little bit off track. And I think Mitchelstown can give you that because of its location. You go 1 hour, left, right, up and down. You're going slightly off track, but more and more now, though, it's coming on track. It will become a destination. I suppose satisfaction I've got in the last number of months with people staying with us is nearly every one of them turn around that book one night, and their words to me going away are, we're so sorry we didn't book longer. One, because they like the cottage, but two, we never realised the area had so much to offer. And then that's from going in the morning to the local coffee shops and patisserie, chocolate shops, restaurants, bars.
Tell us a little bit about what people can expect to find in Mitchelstown. Just give them a little taste of it.
Yeah, well, look, Mitchelstown it's a rural town, okay? It's certainly not cosmopolitan. It's rural. So you'll see plenty of tractors up and down the street. You'll see farmers. It's got a real good, 2 or 3 gyms in the town. It's got a young, vibrant feel about it. Coffee shops, nice trendy coffee shops in the town. Local restaurants, the bars. I think one stage going back probably 50 years ago, there was something like 60 bars in the town. You believe that? 60 pubs? That wouldn't be uncommon for an Irish town. I think there's 6 now. So there's only 6 or 7. So there's not a lot left. But again, that's the way culture has gone. But the town itself, yeah, it's agricultural. It has industry, Kerrygold butter. So when you buy your Kerrygold butter in the States, and again, nearly everybody tells me they buy it. They do. They love it. It comes from Mitchelstown. It's made in the town. And it's only made in Mitchelstown, nowhere else. Like Jameson, it's only made in Middleton and it goes worldwide. But yeah, the town itself, it's a lovely planned town. When I say planned, it was designed. Not a lot of towns in Ireland are planned because they were built up over the medieval times and added on and added on. But Mitchelstown was kind of wiped clean, the medieval town, and the town was built afresh, but planned. So it's got lovely avenues. It's got big long streets, wide streets, and it's a grid pattern, like similar to Manhattan, let's say. It's got a grid system of streets. So it's nice and easy to get around, and it's got tree-lined avenues. And I suppose Mitchelstown Castle was built for the visit of the King of England, King George, that went mad. But he went mad and he never got here. So, and that castle has a obviously, I haven't mentioned it yet. If it was still here, it would be front and centre. It's no longer with us. Our Mitchelstown Castle, unfortunately, during the Irish Civil War, was looted and burnt and was demolished in the early 30s. But it was an incredible castle. It was designed by the Payne brothers, who designed Windsor Castle, and it was one of the biggest castles of its type in Ireland, similar to Dromoland Castle, but bigger. So we don't have that anymore, unfortunately, but in place of that, we do have Dairygold, which is the Kerrygold butter and cheese and milk and all the stuff that goes with it. But so it's a vibrant town. It's got plenty of industry in the town. It's a beautiful scenic town. The backdrop is the Galtee Mountains. They hang across the back of the town beautifully, and your landscape, your backdrop to the town is always changing. So on a summer's day, it's really bright. You see the mountains. They can be dark in the winter. I always say it's like a sea landscape. It'll change with the weather. But like any town, you see there are towns in Colorado and stuff, the big mountain range behind them. That's what Mitchelstown is. It has the Galtee Mountains behind them, and they're there. And I love looking at the historical photographs of the town. And the one thing that remains constant is those mountains. They don't change then, and the shape of them. But the town itself is a very relaxed town, plenty of space, as I said, lovely wide streets and that. It's not a lot of Irish towns you feel they're in on top of you. Narrow streets and then the buildings, and Mitchelstown couldn't be further from that. It's really nice and open planned.
So, what you're hearing from visitors is, I wish I would have stayed longer. So, I would say to anybody who is considering staying, don't just pass through. But tell us what they can expect if they were to hire the cottage, because I know that the cottage is available, I believe, on Airbnb, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah, and booking.com as well.
and booking.com. Okay. So tell us about the cottage, what interior wise, bedrooms, things like that, because I know you said there was a family with 8 kids in it at one time, and the size of a traditional Irish cottage for a family of 8 is nearly unfathomable to us now.
One bedroom, that's all that was there, and that's all that's there now. So they made it work. Where they slept, God knows. But there was certainly more than 2 people in a bed, that's for sure. In the cottage, yeah, I suppose we've been very, very careful not to overdo it. Everything was stripped back, so your stone work is opened up again, and you can see your stone, to see your timber lintels, all of that. But we try to make it a bit contemporary as well. So we've little nods to the past everywhere. There's family pictures up. There's a lovely metal bed frame, old style black metal bed frame in the bedroom. Mats. I suppose the walls are plaster, or they're lime render, so they can be cold looking. So you've got your soft cushions and rugs and stuff to soften it up. The little nod to the past. We have our St. Bridget's cross on the wall. We've John F. Kennedy hanging on the wall. I suppose one thing I was adamant to do, my grandmother, God rest her, loved the Kennedys. And I was adamant that a 1950s house, now the cottage is a lot older than 1950s, but if that would have been my grandmother's time in the house. And they had a picture of John F. Kennedy, and they had a picture of the Pope, Pope Paul or John at the time. And they had a picture of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. So in a 1950s house in Ireland, the Sacred Heart, John F. Kennedy and the Pope, you were sorted. That was your decor. So they're there. I have pictures of John F. Kennedy. So, and a lot of the original stuff that was in the cottage, we took away, bought new frames, put them in new frames, and it's hanging on the walls. I mean, there's a papal blessing from 1953 on the wall. And again, less is more. I suppose the feedback I get all the time from people is every little corner has something new. So we've loads of little things. We've an Irish dresser, and you can spend an hour looking at it, and you're going to find little pieces here and there. And, I suppose we put a lot of trust in people as well that,
They're not going to pocket something.
well, yeah, well, you put them in there. You want them to enjoy it. And so far, touch wood, we've been okay and everyone has enjoyed it. But you want those little things. We're not going to put precious family heirlooms in there. Now, there is some, but there's details everywhere. It's they keep finding them. It's hard to explain it here now, but it's all the little things, and it's the things you don't think of. And then there's the practical things, of course. We have a bathroom cabinet full of all your accessories for the bathroom, for showers, and even the whole lot. We try to think of everything, your yogurt, your cheese, your butter, your fresh milk, your water, your bottle of wine, your chocolates, your fresh flowers. All of that's there ready for you on your arrival.
And I'm going to assume local produce as well.
Oh yeah, all local, yeah. West Cork yogurts, cheese, butter. Well, Kerrygold is only in the road.
I suppose that the best way to describe it would be like walking into your great-grandmother's Irish cottage, very sympathetically created, curated almost.
That you said it, Jody. That is the word. I tend to forget to use it sometimes, but it's not designed, it's curated, and it really is. I did a couple of QR codes a few weeks ago for a blog, because I found myself going on a bit to people who arrived. Some liked it, some were kind of, I want to chill out here and rest, but it was a lot to get across. So you're trying to explain yourself and explain the history, because you do want them to understand the context of it. So I did a blog, like a website, and QR code is on the fireplace, and they can scan it so they can see the renovation, the pictures, the thatching, the history of the cottage, who lived there, photographs, timeline, all stuff like that, and as well as an Instagram page. So the guests are enjoying that because they follow us on Instagram, and they go home then stateside, and they're back doing their daily grind of a job, and all of a sudden they might see a beautiful picture of the meadow and the cottage. And like when we all go on holidays, we like to be reminded sometimes of where we were,
And my listeners all know that I will include your socials as well as links to booking the cottage within the show notes, so they will have access to all of this without having to do any deep searching. So any interest in the cottage at all, visit the show notes and all the information is going to be right there.
Excellent.
So is there anything that people should keep in mind if they're thinking about staying in a period home like this? What should they keep in mind that's going to be different than maybe a more modern holiday home rental?
Well, not much really. I think we try to think of everything. I suppose you do have to factor in that the building is heading towards 300 years old eventually. So it's going to be cool. Mud walls and a thatched roof. In the summer, it's very cool. And in the winter, it's a little warm. But it has a coolness about it, like any period house. You could go into a great Georgian house and you'd still feel that. We've got full central heating in there and the fire and stuff. So we combat that. Everyone says it's lovely and cozy, but that's it. I mean, I think really the only difference is, there's lovely blankets and throws there. You might sit down in the armchair with a throw over you with your mug of coffee. But again, we try to blend as much subtle modern convenience as well as the heritage side of it. So you do have an espresso machine for your coffee, and
But the most important part is there a fireplace?
there is a fireplace, but unfortunately, with regulations in Ireland to do with insurance attached cottages, it's no longer possible to have a fire in there, which is a shame. But we do have an electric fire with an electric stove, and it has the effect of it. And it does. It's warm, it's flickering, and it's inviting. That's 100%.
Gives you the feeling. That's all you need.
It does. Unfortunately, there's regulations around thatch insurance. There's a big debate at the moment in Ireland about it, because there's not a lot of thatched houses in Ireland, and people are looking for government to support where they can on it, because people are choosing to take the thatch off the roofs because they can't get insured. So that's an argument for another day.
I think that adds to the specialness, because seeing a thatched cottage is a highlight for people. So I kind of feel like staying in a thatched cottage is almost like staying in a castle. You're not just looking at the history, but you're a part of it. You're inside of it. Almost, if that doesn't sound too weird.
You're very much part of it. And the proof of that is when people come to stay, because the thatch roof is so low, they can come and they're walking up to the door and they lift up their hand and they touch it. Now, I'm used to it, but there's a lot of people would have never actually touched, feel how loose it is, what's it like. And because the thatched cottage, the roof is so low, you can come and you can just put your hand up without stretching, and you can put your hand on the roof and you can feel it. There's not a lot of buildings you can do that with, if you think about it. A roof is usually well out of touch. So they can touch it, and you can touch the roof and you can touch the walls, and all of a sudden the building becomes very accessible to you to understand it. I had a builder from America that he specializes in roofs, and he looked at it and he couldn't get over it, just the basic technology in it of the way it was thatched and the reeds or the water to run off it and so forth. But he could touch it, or he could touch it and look at it and so forth. So it does become very much part of them in there. And then when they're in there, as I said, you feel that kind of cocoon. That's what it's like. You're cocooned in. In small cottages, that's the feel, because the windows are small as well. Everything is small. And when you've got small windows to look out of and you've got a thatched roof on top, you feel very cocooned, let's say.
And it changes it from a place to stay to almost a place that you're experiencing. And I think that for a lot of visitors, that's almost what they're searching for. Not only the being there, but the experience of it all. So I think your cottage is going to tick a lot of boxes for a lot of people.
Yeah, it does. It's very tactile. They can touch the stone, they can touch the thatch, they can touch the lime plaster and all of that. And it makes a difference to how they experience it, 100%.
Well, Jim, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me about the cottage, about the area, and even more about how staying a few days can not only enhance your trip, but really just making that the center. And there's so much you can do. Absolutely so helpful for my listeners. But before I let you go, can you give us 3 tips of things that people should not miss in Mitchelstown if they're staying with you? Are you ready to hit the road in Ireland? When it's time to compare car rental prices, check out Irish Car Rentals, my top pick for great vehicles and outstanding customer service. Plus, I have a special treat for you, an exclusive 10% discount when you book using link IrelandFamilyVacations.com/ICR. Start your journey the smart way. Save more and explore more with Irish Car Rentals.
Yeah, well, I suppose the Galties is the main one, the Galtee mountain range. It's beautiful, second highest mountain range in Ireland behind Carrytool in Kerry. So spectacular views. My dad used to say years ago, on a clear day, you could see coast to coast. Now, just about possibly you can go coast to coast because it's right in the heart, in the middle of Ireland. So see coast to coast. Not a lot of places you can do that. Now, you'd want good eyesight in a clear day without any haze.
Possibly a pair of binoculars. Okay.
Yeah, all you'll see in the horizon is just blue. So it could be sky or sea, I'm sure. So the Galties is amazing because you can hike them, can do electric mountain bikes, trails across them, and beautiful forests and river walks and so forth around the hinterland of the Galties as well. So the Galties is the main. The town itself, of course, is a unique thing to see. The Galties would be one. I suppose Cahir Castle is stunning. It's beautiful. And Cahir is 20 minutes outside town. County Tipperary, and it's a beautiful, beautiful castle. The cannonball stuck in the wall that people look out for. So not necessarily in Mitchelstown, but again, 20 minutes away, And again, and only 30 minutes away, 20 minutes away is the V Drive, the Knockmildown Mountains. Beautiful, beautiful. This time of year, the rhododendrons are in bloom, so the whole inside is ablaze with pink. Really, really incredible. And these are all things that people in Mitchelstown are very proud of, And again, Mitchelstown being the base of being able to get to all these places. There's 3 mountain ranges. The town is bang in the middle. You have the Galtee Mountains, you have the Ballyhowra Mountains, and you have the Knockmildown Mountains. And the town is right in the middle of all of these 3 mountain ranges, which in itself brings, I suppose, in America, places like these that are like Colorado and stuff, they have these mountains around them. They bring the tourists to them. These are why you're there and you can access these mountains. In Mitchelstown, you can access 3 mountain ranges within 20 minutes of you. 3 of them. I mean, you think about it, it's actually incredible.
So you get that beautiful valley feel as well. And no matter which way you go, you've got a scenic drive through a gap somewhere.
If you walk from the cottage here up the road around a couple of turns, let's say 10-minute walk, you can stand on the road, you can actually see the 3 mountain ranges. You can see them. The Galties is the closest. Then you have the Ballyhowra next ones, and then the Knockmildown's a little further, but you can see all 3. So it does give you that feeling that you're in this kind of valley,
Absolutely stunning. Well, Jim, again, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today, for sharing about the cottage. It sounds absolutely ideal, and I know that it is going to be of great interest to my listeners.
Thanks, Jody, and thanks for your time and let me talk about it. Do appreciate it.
I hope you enjoyed this episode with Jim Murphy. We talked about a lot, gave a whole lot of tips, so don't forget that you can access full show notes from your podcast app. So just open that app, go to the show notes. There will be a link at the bottom, and that will take you to the full article and show notes so you can get everything we talked about. If you enjoyed the podcast, don't forget to leave a 5-star review at Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you can't leave a review on the podcast app, you can leave a review at the Ireland Family Vacations Facebook page, or you can go to Trustpilot at IrelandFamilyVacations.com/trust and just say a couple nice words. That would really, really be appreciated. If you have questions or comments about this episode, you can email me, Jody, Jody at IrelandFamilyVacations.com. And as always, thank you so much for listening. Until next time, slán go fóill.